Title: Role of Major Powers in Iran and Israel Conflict. The United States' support for Israel has been pivotal in shaping the dynamics of the conflict. Example: providing military aid and political backing to Israel in various international forums. Russia's involvement in the region has influenced the balance of power and strategic calculations. Example: altering the military landscape. China's economic interests in the Middle East impact its stance on the Iran-Israel conflict. Example: seeking stability to safeguard its investments in the region. European Union's diplomatic efforts have aimed at mitigating tensions and promoting dialogue. Example: hosting peace talks and offering mediation services between the parties. The United Nations' role in peacekeeping and humanitarian aid has been significant. Example: deploying peacekeeping missions to monitor ceasefires and protect civilians. Turkey's geopolitical ambitions influence its stance on the Iran-Israel conflict. Example: balancing relations with both Iran and Israel to enhance its regional influence. India's diplomatic relations with both Iran and Israel affect its stance on the conflict. Example: balancing economic interests with strategic alliances in the region. France's historical ties with the region influence its diplomatic initiatives. Example: pushing for peace talks and arms control agreements. Germany's economic interests in the region affect its stance on the conflict. Example: promoting trade agreements and investment opportunities to foster stability. The United Kingdom's colonial legacy in the Middle East shapes its policies towards the conflict. Example: advocating for a two-state solution and supporting peace-building initiatives. Japan's energy dependency influences its approach to the Iran-Israel conflict. Example: seeking stability in the region to ensure uninterrupted oil supply. Brazil's role as a global player affects its stance on the conflict. Example: advocating for diplomatic solutions and promoting dialogue between the parties. Australia's security interests in the Middle East influence its support for regional allies. South Africa's historical ties with Iran and Israel impact its diplomatic engagements. Example: advocating for a peaceful resolution and supporting humanitarian efforts in the region. South Korea's economic interests in the region shape its approach to the conflict. Example: prioritizing stability to safeguard investments and trade partnerships. Nigeria's role as a regional power in Africa influences its engagement in the Middle East. Example: supporting diplomatic efforts and peacekeeping initiatives in the region. Sweden's commitment to humanitarian aid shapes its policies towards the conflict. Example: providing assistance to refugees and advocating for human rights in the region. Norway's mediation efforts contribute to conflict resolution initiatives. Example: hosting peace talks and facilitating dialogue between Iran and Israel. Indonesia's status as the world's most populous Muslim-majority nation affects its stance. Example: advocating for Palestinian rights while maintaining diplomatic relations with Israel. Mexico's position as a non-aligned nation influences its approach to the conflict. Example: supporting UN resolutions for a peaceful resolution while maintaining diplomatic ties with both parties. Italy's historical ties with the region impact its diplomatic initiatives. Example: mediating between conflicting parties and promoting cultural exchange programs. Spain's geographical proximity to North Africa influences its policies. Example: advocating for stability in the region to prevent the spread of extremism. Poland's alignment with NATO affects its stance on the conflict. Example: supporting NATO security measures in the region and cooperating with allied forces.